Welcome back to our channel. Today we invited two of our medical students to talk about artificial intelligence. Professor Mansmann and we will interview them, and we will then have a discussion about artificial intelligence and medical studies. So if you wouldn't mind to briefly introduce yourselves, who are you? What were your interests before your studies? Why did you choose medicine? What are your plans for after your studies? And give us a brief introduction of yourselves, please.
Yeah, okay. Hey everyone, really nice to be here and thank you for inviting us. My name is Gergana and Lishkova, and I come originally from Bulgaria, and now I am in my 10th semester, I think, already in the medical studies. How I started with medicine, actually in the beginning I wanted to study informatics. But I had some personal health issues in the 10th class, so I really went a bit deeper into medicine and really enjoyed it. Looked and saw how many diagnoses there are, how interesting it is to be involved in there. So I decided to study medicine. And then after our physicum, the state exams, I had a bit more time to involve in a different hobby than just studying medicine all the time. And I took part in summer school where we met with Tim on artificial intelligence, where I could combine both my hobbies, so informatics and then the medicine, and developed in that way. So my passion for now is radiology and computer vision in radiology. So my plan would be to go afterwards in radiology and also work a bit in research there. And probably I just did another program that was a bit more business and management based. So I would really love to also combine it afterwards, maybe working together with startups, or in general a bit more into research and how artificial intelligence can be used in the medical field.
Hi everyone, I'm Tim Wiegand. I'm also a medical student in some high number semester. I like to think I only need 2 more years and then I'm a doctor, hopefully. I paused med school for 1.5 years to also do some research from a dissertation on the topic of neuroimaging, broadly spoken. This is also how I got in touch with AI initially, because after my A-levels I had the chance to do an internship in Boston for about 2 months in the field of neuroimaging, and the sort of first task I was given was to segment brain MRI scans. So I had to tell the computer what's actually brain and what's just skull or water or whatever. And I did that for a couple of scans, and then I was asking my supervisors if everybody did this here and if there wasn't a way to automatize this. And Serena was her name. She told me, yeah, there's a way. That's actually why you're doing it, because we are currently working on an algorithm to automatize this task, because we always have to tell our further processing algorithms what's brain and whatnot. And so we need like perfect segmentations of these brain scans so that we can then use an algorithm. This wasn't my only task there, so I also had the chance to work together with computer scientists and see how they then apply all sorts of algorithms, which absolutely amazed me. And then med school started for me, and I wanted to learn more about it, but it was very difficult because, like a couple of years ago, I think there were only sort of two types of groups that focused on AI. There were the business people that most of them don't focus on the maths behind it, the algorithms behind it. They want to know how to apply these algorithms and what they can do with it. And then there were the computer scientists and mathematicians that solely focus on the maths part, and which was also too complex for me. And so I was kind of stuck in the middle. I wanted to know what to do with it, but also how it works. And that's also why I applied to this summer camp, and why I really benefited from it, because it at least solved a couple of issues. And then I wanted to continue and also help others learn about it. And I mean, So what do I want to do in the future? AIM, I think, has made things more complicated because there are so many chances on how to apply AI. I would love to do research. I'm also very interested in startups. I have founded a small one that doesn't have anything to do with AI, but I'm still interested. But also, I want to be a medical doctor and work as one. So.
Mm-hmm. So tell us more about AIM. That's an initiative you are involved in with AI and medicine, correct?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is an initiative we started after the summer school because we really enjoyed it there, how it was made. I think, at least for me, or my personal opinion, it was prepared really good because it was not just a theoretical part where we just had lectures and seminars, but we really had workshops where we could do our own stuff, we could write our own code, we could compete with each other, we could work in teams, and it was really super interesting for us, and we thought, then why not that everyone has this chance. And I believe that this is just a future for everyone, and it is getting implemented everywhere. I see it now in radiology a bit more because I'm working there, but I'm sure there is a lot also in cardiology with all of the medical devices, and it's just everywhere. So I really believe that everyone should have this at least foundation to understand how it works and why it works and why it is used and how it is used. So I know that not everyone can become an expert in it, so that's why now this semester we decided to split it into programming part where there are more tech-affin people, and then the startup people that are more interested in what is out there, what startups there are, what companies there are, and how they're working, but not really program themselves. So that is how we started our idea and then developed during the semesters.
Yeah, and I really think it was kind of a lucky coincidence because, at least to me personally, this summer camp showed one of the very few positive sides of the pandemic, because I think it was initially planned to be just a few days in Bologna, which would have been terrific, of course, but they switched it to a virtual summer school that then took part, I think, over 1.5 months, something like that, and so this gave us the chance to learn much more about the topic of AI in medicine and also interact with one another more deeply. And then, we just started because we were motivated and we wanted to expand our knowledge but also teach others. And so we're not really a political institution that focuses on education and policy making or anything, but I think we all kind of have similar goals. You talked about chemotherapy as we met, and I think it's kind of similar because I think everybody should know the basics of chemotherapy. So we want to teach the basics of AI in medicine, but then there are also a few motivated students that want to know more about chemotherapy and that want to know more about AI in medicine, and for those we also want to provide ways where they can learn. Because we both had the same problem, we also wanted to learn, and it wasn't that easy. And then the third goal is probably just to have fun. We only do what we really love to do. This is why we split up and pursue different paths, and then maybe we merge again. We are always in exchange anyway. And so, it's a great opportunity, I guess.
In an interview with the Journal of the German Medical Association, one of your colleagues from AIM mentioned that AI hasn't really arrived in medical practice. From your point of view, do you think that this not really being part of the medical curriculum is like the only reason for that?
It's definitely not the only reason. There are so many amazing publications on the topic where the research teams tell us that they have found this amazing algorithm, and when applying it they achieve way better accuracies or whatever measure you want to use than human doctors, and that's all amazing and it's really motivating, I guess. But what we see often is then when we want to apply to the real world, it's just not that easy. because it depends on so many different things. It depends on the input data and on the quality of the data, on how to apply the algorithm. And so that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we still need a little bit more time to actually apply all these algorithms that surely will be amazing at some time to the real world, is my guess.
Yeah, totally. Like our program is just so filled up. Today my day started at 8 and I still have further courses until 7. So when are you supposed to do something extracurricular, right? And I think it's a really big problem when you work in an interdisciplinary teams in the clinic. You have on the one side the doctors that just want to do the stuff maybe just a bit faster because they can then take care of the patients. And on the other side, you have like IT people who take care of the code and all of the other stuff. And then I think there is a really miscommunication between both parties because, I mean, sometimes the informatics people try to write their code and it looks perfect, but it doesn't really solve a problem that is a real problem in the clinic. And on the other side, doctors sometimes really want something which is impossible. So I think what is really missing is this basic understanding of both sides, how it works. For example, the doctors, what I already mentioned, to know how it works so that they know what to expect from the informatics, and they can really tell, okay, this is how I want it and this is really something feasible. Or on the other side, to really collect the right data, because they so much write so often so free text data, which is so unstructured. You can't really do something with it. Of course, there are NLP algorithms right now being developed, but it's so much easier to develop a better algorithm if you have just really structured data. So I think this is also a thing that is really preventing us from really achieving big things. And I think what we want to do now at LMO AIM and what is super important is to give this basic understanding to people, to doctors, and then on the other side, to informatics. To know what they can expect and how they can be the best working in interdisciplinary teams.
But as Tim just said, he had this time in Boston. He had to sit down and he had to look at images and he had to annotate the images. So he changed image data into structured data. I mean, this is a big problem here because the documentation in the clinic is quite bad. It's something which people are suffering to do. It's not very nice, but as you said, it's necessary. But could you imagine to motivate students to sit down here in our hospital and just help to get data more structured? You know, we have the Center of Data Integration, which has this big goal to provide data warehouses for different indications. At the moment there's neurology, a lot going on, but we see there is a huge need to prepare the structured data. Laboratory which needs to get specific terminologies, other data needed to get terminologies. I mean, this is a big challenge, and in a way a lot of volunteer work has to be done because the hospital cannot pay for it to get this stratification. And I guess there is also, how to say, should be some movement coming from the students just to push this a little bit ahead, even perhaps also to volunteer in this kind of activity.
I mean, I totally agree, that this is a huge problem, and that excellent data and also excellent annotations are needed to work with it. But at least at the moment, my intuition is that this should be done like while working with the data actually, and I don't think this is a super attractive task for students to annotate tons of data. I think what we need is some kind of software that allows to annotate the data while actually collecting the data, so that we are able to easier process it easier later on, and not having to do the work then thereafter. And this is also why we are also interested in startups and medtech companies, because there are some that work on this, and it will be interesting to see how they come along.
Yeah, totally. And I think until there is something like this developed in the clinic, I think you can motivate people. I also did that during a research project here in the radiology, and honestly, I would say, yeah, maybe after some time it gets annoying, but in the beginning I really loved it because you are in the team, you see how the team works, you see the development of the project from the beginning until the end, from really finding the patients, the data, until how it is developed. And I had to segment the whole data, and I learned so much of the diagnosis that I saw there. Like, I could really most of the time just really say, from looking after a few seconds at it, saying what it is. So if you have the right people who want to do some specialty and they can do something like this, I think there are a lot of people who want to take part into it because they know they can get easier jobs afterwards. They get better in this specialty. They can start working afterwards. They are so much easier, and they don't have this in the beginning, oh, what am I doing here? But actually have this, oh, I've already done this quite often. So for me, this was really motivational and really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's just quite often missing. I have never seen this thing. I've never seen it online. I've never seen someone offering it. I don't think that it is, of course, people can't be inspired if they don't see what it is. And that's why I think we had a really great split this semester, because with the people we go and see startups, what they're doing, what they can do with the data, how they can develop it, people get really inspired. And then the more tech-affine people go to the course and also go and code themselves and see it, how it works, and get a bit more inspired. And I think this is a bit missing here, because we have a lot of theoretical lectures, but no one really sees it in practice. And I think what we're missing is that you really go and have this Schnuppertage in the clinic, in the research team, and you see how it works. I think there will be more inspired people to do that.
I mean, you just mentioned, both of you, that this AI is something fascinating. It's a fascinating technology. I know a car is a fascinating technology. Since I have a car, I walk less. I know DeepL is a fascinating technology to translate text. Since I know DeepL, I got a little bit lazy and do it by myself. And what do you think? How will this kind of algorithm change your activity as a doctor? I mean, will you believe easily to the algorithm? How will you avoid this bias to trust more the algorithm as your own judgment? I mean, this is also a kind of practice one needs to have at the same time when you get to know this fascinating world of artificial intelligence in medicine. Did you reflect about this problem, or in your group, or in the discussions?
I mean, of course, it is a problem, especially when it is still called to be a black box. And it is even a bigger problem if the person who is using the software, for example, doesn't know why the software has decided something and how. So I think there are developments in this direction to actually like explainable AI, why it chose it. But again, I come back to the first point that I was repeating already quite often. I just think that doctors have to have a basic understanding of how it works so that they can trust the algorithm also much more. And of course, it is a problem, and I don't think that it would overtake our job in the next 10 or 20 years. But I think it would definitely help us, at least give us, okay, maybe there is a possibility of 80% that this is a tumor, or 50%, and then yourself, you know, okay, so maybe I shouldn't believe it, or maybe, yeah, okay, there is a big chance that I do it, and maybe I should really check it better. So I think in that way, it develops quite good.
Yeah, it's a tricky question, because there will also be a lot of transition over time, I guess. And maybe your DeepL example works very well, because I mean, if you want to write a text in English that you then send out as an email or something, you're still the author, right? So you will still double check the text in the end and make sure everything is right. And I guess also in medicine, we as doctors will be making the decisions for a long, long time. And so AI algorithms applied in whatever way will probably help us to be more certain about the diagnosis, to not oversee anything that would have been important to maybe facilitate writing other reports, etc., etc. But we will make the decisions, and we will be the one that provides or gives a diagnosis to the patient. And I think this is what we should work on.
But with all enthusiasm for implementation in clinical practice, isn't it just that not enough focus on research and even small feasibility studies, whether these things, these algorithms work? I often see this big gap between sort of a retrospective analysis of a data set. The algorithm works well, it's done in one center, and then everybody thinks it works perfectly everywhere and anytime with any patient. On the other hand, if you had more of a culture of testing the algorithm, not trusting it entirely, but seeing how you can integrate it into the clinical workflow, see whether it works as well with the local patients as it did in that other center. Isn't that an important cultural aspect to introduce this concept of researching quality improvement, seeing if this thing still works?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, this is needed. I mean, you probably know this hype cycle, right? And I think we are at the start of a long journey. Right now, we are just all hyped up and see these very promising and interesting results, and there's so much excitement coming from it, and this is how the hype starts, right? And then, some statisticians come and they tell us, it's not really that easy, and you really need to do a better job, collect more data, collect excellent data, and then all the excitement gets a little pushed down. But in the end, if both sides work together, we can build excellent algorithms that really facilitate our everyday clinical work, and I think that's why both sides need to work together.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also in medicine it's a bit hard because of the medical data. It's not that easy to get medical data. And with all of the laws, it makes it even harder in Germany. I just think I find it a bit a pity that there are so many developments already in autonomous driving that is already used that good, and then in medicine, and you don't really have it that good. And there it's just for fun, as you already said it, with the car. And medicine is actually something that everyone needs. So I definitely think we should push more towards that direction. But as Tim already said, we are in the beginning of a really long journey.
I mean, it would be great to know that medical students would like to get involved in doctoral theses related to artificial intelligence. I mean, this is something our institute is also offering. So this is something we could also stress, for example, in Module 6, which would be a place in our curriculum where people could get a closer contact to this kinds. For example, there's also the chance to write some first scientific paper. And this is something, for example, we could also interact if in Module 6 there would be some space and opportunity to go deeper into this artificial intelligence issue in medicine.
Yes.
I think it depends. I think it depends really a lot also what kind of doctoral thesis you're doing. Sometimes you don't really have time for that. But it's totally a good point, because I think during this semester there are a lot of people also learning R or Python to make the statistics of their doctoral thesis. So I guess it's a good to deepen a bit into that direction. But I don't think it's the only possibility to do it, of course. I think honestly, if there is only 1 or 2 slides at the end of each lecture and every specific specialty, I know in cardiology, not only because we always have the history of the specialty, of course it is very interesting, but why not also have the future and what is expected there and how it can be changed and what is done in this direction, and really a bit inspire the people of what can come and how it can be developed. I think this would also be a great opportunity as well.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. So when reading all the applications for our programming course, so many applicants wrote there, oh, I want to apply AI in my doctoral thesis project, please help me, I really need input there. And of course, that's why we all started. And so this is for the experts that really want to know the details about chemotherapy and apply it. But then again, I also think that a basic understanding is necessary. And this is also where you guys come into place, right? All of us have to take statistics 1 and 2, and you also touch upon various AI topics in there, and I think that's excellent. And then if people want to go in depth, that's why we are here for. And I mean, yeah, we like to do it, right? So.
I mean, there's this old joke, what do you do with a high school student who's bad at math? You send them to medical school. I mean, isn't there a fundamental problem that doctors often don't understand diagnostic tests and type 1 and type 2 errors? And if we kind of set a whole new layer on top, we kind of muddy the waters, and people understand diagnostic tests even worse than before?
Yeah, to some extent I agree, but also not fully, because what was always the motto, let's say, of our course teacher during the summer school, he was like, I want to really develop into intuition of AI and how it can be used. Of course, you don't need every doctor to understand every formula that is written in there or write the perfect code. I just think it is more about like a really basic understanding of what can be done and how it can be done. And then when there are people who are interested to go a bit deeper into this, they can go into this. And I think quite often during doctoral thesis, it's not the medical student who does alone the whole analysis. I think it's often like really interdisciplinary projects, and I think that is how it has to be, because of course a medical student, I mean, we are so full with our courses. If you do a top informatics, it will be super hard, and I don't expect from a medical student or from a doctor to do everything from the beginning until the end. Of course, this is something that I think we're missing a bit, and I really liked in the program that I was doing additionally, that you really have interdisciplinary teams and you learn to work together with other people. So I don't think that everyone really needs to be that good in mathematics. But yeah, you're totally right for statistics and errors. That is super important. So because you can also understand the research and the papers you're reading, and to be able to really understand what is going on and what's the better therapy. This is totally something that we definitely need. I know a lot of people are always are quite often annoyed by that, but it is really something that is needed to be able to understand papers, research, and really do appropriate doctoral thesis.
And I mean, if you ask me, do I need to know more about type 1 errors? Of course, my answer is yes. But, you know, it is what it is. And people also tend to forget things the further they move forward. And the more years lie between current day and med school. But we also don't ask people to calculate a gradient descent, so a common AI sort of algorithm by hand. I don't think that's very helpful. I think we kind of need to meet in the middle. We need to appreciate that there are a few very bright minds that will be able to do that, but many people, including me, won't. And so we kind of need to find the path in the middle where AI becomes explainable. And this is not, you know, AI is really just a part of statistics. I think statistics in general need to be easy to understand, easily explainable. And then, you know, there are these issues with the statistics of every single publication, and then you take a ton of publications, and then it becomes even more difficult because you not only have to understand one paper, but you have to compare a whole lot of them. And that's why people write guidelines together with colorful flowcharts, because this will ease up applying all the knowledge. So, I mean, yeah, we kind of need to be realistic and and also use AI maybe to help in clinical decision making. And I think that's possible.
I mean, I have a general problem here. I see that medical students or even clinicians like to treat patients. This doing is very important. And I often have the feeling they miss a deeper understanding for this process to evaluate the instruments they use. They have big joy in just enjoying to apply something. And there's a point where I often meet a kind of misconception, because there is a kind of feeling that evaluation is not so big thing and not so difficult and easily done, and yes, too much work is, what to say, superfluous or not necessary. I think there I see a very important thing in this medical or clinical setting to deepen the, how to say, consciousness for how to evaluate technologies I apply with my patients. And often I see people oversee all the tricky traps which are there and misconceptions and misunderstandings which easily guide somebody to apply something in a wrong way.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I often see that students and clinicians don't see the joy, between understanding evaluation and then applying that to practice. Otherwise, you're just a doer. You just follow some guideline, as you mentioned, and you don't really understand it.
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing to teach and to find the joy in it, definitely. I just think it also maybe a problem here in Germany because we just have so many students per one professor. I think it's a really good thing to have it in smaller teams and really do something practical with it so that people really get involved into it. Of course, if you just sit there in a lecture hall for 2 hours where someone is showing you I don't know, some formulas and how it works, and if you're not good in maths, as you already said, and you think, when I'm going to use that, people are not motivated. But if you do it really in smaller teams, work on it, let maybe people even compete with each other, you will, especially medical students, I think you will really see how competitive people can be to really achieve the better result. And I think we have the seminars that are like with, 5 to 10 people. I think this could be something feasible that people get a bit more motivated to actually work with that, or have just a paper and try to analyze it and then discuss it critically, and not just, I think now this semester we have this inverted classroom, which is quite a good path to go so that everyone is prepared from before and then just comes there and can discuss their questions and really work it out. I think this is the way to go to really get inspired to do something and also learn it quite good.
So inverted classroom, you flip the table and you start teaching?
I've actually seen that as well. But no, for us now, inverted classroom would be to watch the lectures online. There is videos there. So you prepare yourself on a topic and then you come there to the seminar and then you just discuss the questions that you had during watching the lecture, and not just sit there and listen for 2 hours, someone just saying it to you, because that's how it is, right? You learn it much better once you have done it yourself and not when you've just heard it from someone.
I mean, I understand that people need to learn a lot in med school, but to learn the facts, of course, to then apply them. But what I really miss in med school, and this is just my personal opinion, is our courses on clinical decision making. And I think what you talked about is an essential part of clinical decision making, because I can learn everything about all the 57 or whatever antidepressants out there, but which one do I use and in what situation? I think it would be helpful to have specific courses maybe even on that sort of topic, and then also learn about how to evaluate certain diagnostic measures, etc., etc. The only thing that comes to my mind that I usually learn about this is what is the diagnostic sensitivity and specificity of a common diagnostic measure or tool in the most common diseases. But I think there's a lot more to that, and I think this is missing.
And in your summer school, did you have this type of activity called datathon or hackathon, where you work on a data set and you reach at a new algorithm fulfilling some task? Or
Yeah, we did.
We did. I think it was the coolest part of it.
I mean, this is a very nice, setting also for teaching. I mean, in Module 6, something like this could be implemented, giving people at the beginning of the semester a data set, meeting each week, looking for progress and coming to a specific end, especially then if you have your algorithm to classify something, calculate AUC curves, calculate sensitivity, specificity, calculate predictive values. I mean, if there is some help from your side, one could go and install such activities.
Yeah, you can go.
I mean, absolutely. I think the two of us are heavily biased towards that. We think everybody should learn more about AI. But, I think we should differentiate between what everyone needs to know and then what only certain people that want to dive deeper into this topic need to know. And I think it's not an easy question.
But Module 6 allows a specialization, so you have different ways. You could choose some topics, but you don't have to cover everything.
Exactly, and then the question arises: is a hackathon? What is it? Is it category 1? Everybody should do it, or is it category 2?
No.
Only the freaks should do it.
I agree with you. This is not something for everybody.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not that easy. Yeah.
So small groups and an optional hackathon. I guess we solved the Module 6 question. Is there anything that you would like to tell our audience, maybe to fellow students or to your teachers?
I learn a lot by watching lectures. They really help me when preparing for most lectures. Really help me prepare for my exams. But what I would like to see is for every lecture, at least what I would do if I was a professor, I would add 1 or 2 slides at the end where I not only talk about how to diagnose a stroke or whatever, but also what very interesting hot technical advances are on the horizon. And I think a university should also aim to deliver really modern and cutting edge, hot off press knowledge like this. And so maybe I would add a few slides on that when talking about diagnosis of, skin cancer. I would add, the one paper everybody talks about on how the algorithm performs, and maybe I would also let people discuss it. But yet again, I would also add a slide on, sex differences in diagnosis, and also on racial differences in diagnosis. So I see that it's not that easy. But I would like to see AI becoming a thing like everything else, like lab results, like imaging, like all the sort of aspects people cover in the lectures. I want to see it become a common thing.
And you have a homepage where you help students to get to know AI, say with easy up to more difficult papers, which you see as relevant.
Not really. So we started with 2 lecture series where we talked about the theoretical foundations and then also scientific applications. We had the symposium where we covered this really in depth. But we don't have a website where we cover the 10 most interesting papers.
Well, my favorite paper was something like this, just to get people a teasing to look at.
Maybe we should.
Yeah, that's true. I also see it by myself. When I started doing it, it became more and more interesting, and the more you learn about it, you just get addicted to it and you want to learn even more. And if you don't know anything about it, I think this is quite missing in our studies. We don't really see that often, except for the medical informatics that we have. But otherwise, we don't really see it anywhere. And if people don't know about it, they can't get inspired or start doing it. So I think one thing would be to just generally, increase a bit awareness about it and how it can be used. So I think this would be really something important to start with.
And I liked your idea, just to be honest, to apply artificial intelligence at the beginning when data is created. And not only if data is there and now we can make miraculous and magic things. I mean, this is a quite neglected field, to apply artificial intelligence just to create data in a good way, in an objective way. I think this is a very nice idea of you.
Gergana, Tim, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.